We're talking conservation. This podcast is a collaboration of Farmers for Soil Health, the Conservation Technology Information Center, the Minnesota Soybean Growers Association, and the Red River Farm Network. I'm Don Wick, and we're very pleased to have with us Grant and Dawn Breitkreutz out of the Redwood Falls, Minnesota area, first recipients of the Leopold Conservation Award in Minnesota. First of all, Dawn and Grant, thanks so much for joining us.
It's great to be here.
Thank you.
Let's start off by way of introduction. Tell us a little bit about your farm and really how you made this some of the transitions you did into some of these conservation practices.
Well, it's been about a 27-year journey, to be real honest with you. When we took over the farm from my parents, they both exited the farm completely. And Dawn and I pretty much got to start from where we wanted to, and we did what I was taught, what I knew, and it wasn't working for us. And so we really enjoyed the cattle. So we started focusing on grazing management, attending some schools, things like that, and figured out that over a period, a bunch of years, that it was all about soil health, about how we could improve the soil health. And we saw tremendous increases in grazing days on our pasture lands. And all of a sudden one day we just looked at each other and it's like, why aren't we implementing these same type of practices on our cropland where we're growing crops? So about 2007, 2008 is, best of our knowledge, is kind of when we put the hammer down to change what our row crop land was doing too. So it's kind of the evolution of it to where we are now, and we're still learning every day, every year.
That's true.
Well,
Mother Nature can be very humbling.
Yeah, Mother Nature is large and in charge, right? When I look back to 2007, 2008, that time period, today's the conversation about soil health, I think, gets to be pretty common. It wasn't so much that way 20 years ago. So what was that eureka moment to kind of get you there?
I guess there was many. There was many. One of the big eye openers for us was we were trying to harvest winter triticale. We'd planted it after cutting corn silage. You know, we were pretty limited on acres here, so we were trying to produce as much forage as we could for winter feed for these cows. And it had rained that night, and the stuff was getting so tall we couldn't get it through our equipment. And I told Dawn, you just got to go out and windrow this stuff. We got to get it laid down, otherwise we're never going to get it cut. And we had 2.5 inches of rain that night, and she went out there and cut as soon as we got done with chores and never left the track. I figured she'd be stuck, and never left the track. And just several hours after that, we're following her with 2 choppers and pulling them big heavy wagons, and we never left the track. And it's like, wow, something changed here in the soil. Something's different. And so it really made us start looking at what was going on and focusing on what had changed, what's going on in the soil.
I think of Redwood County, first of all, having good dirt to begin with. Am I wrong in that?
Yeah.
Maybe most places except for here. We have pretty marginal soils. So honestly, that's probably another one of the reasons why we started making changes is this farm is marginal soil. It's rocky. We have some sand, we have clay, everything. And so we weren't blessed with good black soil right here on the home farm. So
we're on the bluffs of the Minnesota River, so we're on some pretty rolly land here. It's not flat prairie land, and our soils were down to the high 1% as far as organic matter. We weren't dealing with 4 and 5% organic matter soils here. We're dealing with some pretty degraded soils, and now we've built those back up to 5, approaching 6% organic matter now in these soils, and that's it's really changed the way the soils function and work.
What kind of conservation practices are you utilizing on the farm then?
So 12 crop seasons ago, we switched to 100% no-till. Corn was the last crop we switched to no-till. We have been no-tilling soybeans and other crops since 1998. But obviously nutrient management in corn is quite important, so that was the last crop we switched to no-till. We try to put a cover crop on every acre if it fits in the rotation. Obviously, if we're going to grow a spring grain or a spring pea or something like that, we don't want a cover crop that'll overwinter. But everywhere else where we're growing corn and soy, we try to have a cover crop planted the year before that'll be green in the spring when we go to plant. We also try to walk a cow across every acre that grows a crop, if we can, to harvest either crop aftermath or to harvest some of the cover crops that are growing there if we have a good season where there's some growth there for those cows going into winter.
Diverse crop rotation.
Yeah, we're no longer just corn and soy. We grow corn. Soy is still our primary crops, but obviously a lot of hay to get through the winters here, and a lot of small grains, either winter grains or spring planted grains. We're not quite to a one-third rotation through everything, but we're getting closer every year.
And how do the cows fit into that then?
We've learned they are the key to healing soils, rebuilding soils. So much of what we've learned in this path is that there's a lot of life in the soil. A lot of people say there's the equivalent of 2 to 3 elephants per acre of living biology in the soil. What falls out of the back end of a cow can't be duplicated in a lab, can't be put in a jug, and it just starts the biology back up in the soil so quickly. So that's why the cow is so important to us to get across the land. It helps crank up that biology in the soil.
And we've also come to realize how healthy that is for the cattle also. We don't winter the cows in the yard anymore. They're out on the fields all year long. They need that exercise, and they do just fine. We just have to make sure that we provide some wind protection, on days like this. But they have flourished in this new system.
Yeah, there's a natural synergy between the livestock operation and the crop situation.
Absolutely, and since we quit bringing cattle up to the yards, it was kind of hard on me. I was the one that kind of fought that. But Dawn's like, why? We got wind protection. They got water. You make sure they got water. All you got to do is make sure they get a balanced ration out there, if we're snowed in. And it was really hard for me to do that. But now it's 19 below zero here this morning. I went and checked the cows. They're all sprawled out, laid out in the corn stalks. The wind quit blowing here. They're just content and happy animals. And it really helped us on the expense side. We'd bale all these corn stalks, bring them up to the yard, and then we'd haul manure all spring or all summer, and now they're naturally spreading the manure. We do get some, when we started doing this, we did have some concerned neighbors that said, you're being awful hard on your cows, and it's like, no, we're not. They've got a good place to get out of the wind no matter what. We're blessed with this noxious cedar tree here in the Minnesota River Valley, so it's one of the best machine sheds you could ever build. Those cows can go through a blizzard and come out without snow on their back, and we just make sure they got plenty of protection. And the other big thing we've learned is we wean a lot later than we used to, so that we save all the heifers back, replacement females for our herd, and that mama cow is out there teaching her daughter where to go in these storms, where to look for water, where to find shelter. It's
How to eat snow if they need to.
It's just amazing.
Any transitions? I'm sorry, I was going to say any transition is a challenge. There's hurdles in all of them. The mindset probably can be the biggest hurdle out there.
Absolutely.
Everything we've done has been a struggle for me. Dawn didn't grow up on a farm, and it's probably where we got to where we are as fast as we did, because when we were still doing tillage, she'd get done working a field and I'd say, well, work it again. And she's like, why? You know, a lot of the things we did on the operation day to day, Dawn would question me as to why are we doing this? And it got me thinking, why are we doing this? Do we really need to do that step? Is there a different way we can do it? Is there a different way we can grow crops? Is there a different way we can manage these livestock?
And I'll have to say that it was very rare that he said, because that's just the way you do it, or that's how we've always done it. He was blessed to have a grandfather that kind of thought outside the box. And I think that kind of conditioned him to think things through, having worked beside his grandfather for quite a few years.
And my parents
True.
also were they were one of the first ones to give up the moldboard plow here in this part of the country. You know, I can remember my dad trying no-till in the early 80s, and obviously we didn't have the knowledge that we needed to make it work, but he had tried it in the early 80s and trying to change things.
So where have you gone for information over 27 years? There seems like there's a network of other producers, and certainly we have government agencies that can help along the way and such.
Early on, we spent a lot of time nowhere near Minnesota trying to learn this. We spent a lot of time going up to Burleigh County, North Dakota, to the Minokan farm up there. Jay Fear and his crew up there, you know, they were working on trying to figure this out, and we're blessed to become good friends with Jay. And you know, he knew putting in windbreaks and grass waterways wasn't fixing the problem. And so they were blessed to get that farm and do so much experimentation out there. And honestly, we went up there a lot of years for their conferences before we ever met Gabe Brown. And we did work a lot with Gabe Brown and Alan Williams in the early years for that type of information. Now, it should be a lot easier for a producer to find the information. I mean, the internet, YouTube, there's our conservation districts, our NRCS offices, everybody's just got so much more knowledge and ability to help producers to try to figure this out and make changes on their farms and ranches.
Have you used EQIP or some of the incentive programs that we are seeing out there for soil health today?
Yeah, we have. That was one of the first things that we were able to do when we started with the cattle, is an early EQIP contract. And I think it was like around 2005, 2006. And we subdivided one of our native pastures. And that's when we started seeing all the results that Grant talked about earlier. And so we've used them for different various programs through the years. It's been quite a few years now since we kind of graduated out of the program.
I'm sorry, jump in, Grant.
I'll just say it, and Dad will admit it, but my dad taught me to stay as far away from the government as he could. It was a process for me and Dawn to get comfortable with people in that NRCS office. I mean, just walking through that door was something we weren't comfortable with, and now it's led to, I think if we'd added up, we're right close to 50,000 feet of piped water line laid out here. A lot of winter water sources put in. We've used a lot of fencing. We've used a lot of their programs over the years.
That's that independent streak that's pretty common in cattle production, right?
You said a lot there.
So you were president of the Minnesota State Cattlemen Association. You were very involved in that. Did you try to take the message, beyond the soil health community when you're in a role like that, Grant?
Yes, I did. But Dawn and I learned early on, and Dawn says this all the time.
When the student is ready, the teacher will come. And, as enthusiastic as we are with the knowledge that we've learned, unless a person is ready to listen to it, hear it, and adopt change, you can't make them change. And that's, I've had to counsel Grant many times because he's tried to, to share the knowledge, and some people just aren't ready to hear it. And until they are, it's, we just need to focus on those that are.
One of the interview questions I had as I was moving up to become Cattlemen's president was, if you move up as president, are you going to tell us how to run our farms and ranches? And that is the farthest thing from what Dawn and I want to do to any other producer in this world. But at the same time, we made a commitment about 10 or 11 years ago that we want our farm and ranch open to anybody that wants to come and learn. We're willing to share, because as humans and as fellow cattlemen and fellow producers, I don't want to see anybody else go through the struggles or the financial pitfalls that we hit once in a while on this path. There's no reason we all have to relearn this. And in this regenerative community, it's an open community. It's something that I never thought we'd find in our career. I mean, instead of just having local friends, now I've got friends all over the world that I can just grab the phone, pick up, and call, and they answer. And, it's, hey, Alejandro, this isn't working here. What did you learn in Mexico? And Alejandro will share it openly. The network is huge, and we're blessed to be a part of it, and we're willing to share it.
How cool is that? Now, this Leopold Conservation Award, it's in other states. It has been for some time, but it is a very prestigious honor. You're the first in the state of Minnesota. Tell us about this recognition.
Humbling. Very humbling. Like he said, we just wanted to share what we've learned to help other people not have to, experience what we have. And we actually feel obligated to do that. Seeing the changes in the soil and knowing that we're actually improving human health, ultimately, we feel that obligation, and maybe we've overshared and just been away from the farm too much, but it's a huge honor. It honestly is. I don't know what else I could say.
I'll just add, we've, states around us have had this, and a lot of our friends in other states that have helped teach us how to get down this path that I've called with questions that we've met over the years are recipients of it in other states, and it's just a great honor to be recognized for this award.
I get those little shivers when I hear you talk about it, because I know how prestigious this award is. Is it a lengthy process to go through is there an application process? How does this work?
Yeah, there's an application process. Minnesota State Cattlemen's Caitlin Root, our executive director, called Dawn and I and asked if they could put us up for this award. The Cattlemen's voted on it to put Dawn and I up for it, so the Cattlemen's was the nominating part of our award. For us, it was not much to do. Caitlin did call and ask a bunch of questions. But yeah, it was a pretty simple process for us.
Well, congratulations, because I know what a big deal this is. Any final thoughts you want to make sure we leave our folks with when they're thinking soil health and some of the work you guys have been doing?
Yeah, the one thing that pops in my mind right away is, God, I wish we'd have done this right when we started farming. It would have been a much bigger struggle because the information wasn't out there. But for other producers that are thinking about doing this, dip your toes in it, get started, and I'm sure 10 years down the road you'll look back just like Dawn and I do. It's like, wish we'd have figured this out a lot sooner. Just for that happiness, contentment of us on the farm. I mean, it's made farming fun again for us. We're looking at how to produce life on this farm all the time because we know that directly correlates to life in the soil. and other life that's coming back around us. I mean, the amount of wildlife and birds and just nature in general that's come back to our farming and ranching operation is just incredible.
Don, any thoughts?
Just, yeah, that. I mean, it honestly, oh, let's see, 14, 15 years ago, we were seriously considering quitting. And the change for all of us has been so uplifting. I'll have to say that. Is it hard work? Absolutely. Are we getting our butts kicked by Mother Nature? Yes. But it's given us resilience that we wouldn't have had before. And so if someone's considering doing this and you're serious about it, you can make it work. You can be successful, and never, ever, ever doubt that you can reach out to those of us that are on this path or have been on this path for quite some time to help you out. That's not an exaggeration. It's not BS. We honestly mean it, and everybody else that's been on this path will say the same thing. We're rebuilding community in addition to rebuilding soil health.
I love that. I sure appreciate you guys sharing your story today.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to pull in Lance Irving with us from the Sand County Foundation. We were talking about the Leopold Conservation Award, and Lance, the foundation itself is really the driving force behind this. Thanks for joining us, first of all. Tell us a bit more about the foundation.
Sure. So Sand County Foundation, we're based in Madison, Wisconsin, though we work all over the country, and we work at that intersection of agriculture and environmental improvement. And what we do is we showcase and celebrate the land ethic. Aldo Leopold, who wrote a Sand County Almanac, where we get our name from, defined something of a land ethic as being, doing right by the land, not because you're made to, but because it's the right thing to do. So Sand County Foundation works with farmers, ranchers, and foresters all across the country to celebrate those that are voluntarily achieving great things in conservation and to inspire others and show folks the way that conservation and production can and should have a symbiotic relationship.
As we mentioned, first for Minnesota, this award seen in many other states, and it's a very prestigious award. Tell me, how do Grant and Dawn really fit into the philosophy of the Leopold Award?
Sure. So Grant and Dawn are great land stewards. They're doing amazing things. They're the kind of folks that you want in your community, that you would love to have as a neighbor, because they're doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. So the Leopold Conservation Award has 5 main criteria. There's conservation ethic, there's resilience, there's leadership and communication, there's innovation and adaptability, and there's overall ecological community. And in all of those categories, Grant and Dawn really exemplify what is possible on working lands. For example, their resilience, their conservation not only makes them more environmentally sustainable, it makes them more economically sustainable. As far as leadership and communication, Grant and Dawn are everywhere. Their mission is to inspire others. They want to share their knowledge. They want to communicate across the fence lines to really help all the other farmers and ranchers throughout Minnesota and far beyond do better. And they're innovative. They're figuring out not only what works for them, but they're figuring out patterns and systems and techniques that can be translated to other people's farms and ranches so that everyone can do a little better, have those great environmental improvements, and also have that economic success, because at the end of the day, conservation should be a tool in the toolbox that helps keep farmers and ranchers on the land doing what they love.
Always love to learn about these resources. Tell us where folks can find out more about the Sand County Foundation.
Sure. Probably the best way is just go right to our website, sandcountyfoundation.org. There's lots of information there. The Leopold Conservation Award is available in 28 states, so you can learn more about how to apply. And one of the other things I love to tell people to do there is we've got all of the stories of all of the past recipients from around the country there. There's videos and their write-ups and whatnot. And if you really want to be inspired about what's going on throughout the country on working lands. I'd encourage you to just click on a few of them and learn about some people you may not know about but are doing amazing things on the land.
Great information. Lance, appreciate the chance to fill us in a bit on that as we wrap up our podcast.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thanks so much.
Lance Irving with us from the Sand County Foundation. We were also visiting earlier with Dawn and Grant Breitkreutz out of the Redwood and Renville County areas of Minnesota. We're talking conservation, our podcast collaboration of Farmers for Soil Health, the Conservation Technology Information Center, Minnesota Soybean Growers Association, and the Red River Farm Network. I'm Don Weck.